quiet.
Mr. President-elect,
Go ahead.
Can you say
She's
categorically,
asking a question. Don't
Mr.
be
President-elect, can you give us a question?
Don't be
You're
rude.
attacking us. Can you give us a question?
Don't be rude. No, I'm not going to give you a
question?
question. I'm not going to give you a question.
Can you state categorically?
You are fake news.
Sir.
I'm Dr. Dave Janda. Welcome back to Dave versus the MSM. I'd like to thank you for joining me today and thank you for networking this information to all those you know and love. The more people who are educated and informed, the more people who become empowered. And the more people who become empowered, this is what the globalist cult dislikes at all costs. The more people become empowered, the sooner we end this reign of terror by whatever you want to call it. The globalist syndicate, the globalist cult, the New World Order crowd, the criminal and national banking syndicate, the deep state, the shadow government. It's all the same set of players who want to strip you and everyone you know of your freedoms, of your liberties, of your future, of your health, of your life, of your finances, and of our constitutional republic. That's what they're all about. It's not hard, but that's what they're about. It's sinister. It's evil with a capital E. Let's not undersell this. It's evil. But that's their entire playbook. That's their entire agenda. We have all weathered, at this point, a multitude of manufactured crises at the hands of the cult. In both major and minor. I won't get into the minor crises, but the minor crises are still pretty major. But the Super Bowl of crises, at least in my lifetime, have been the Kennedy assassination, November 63, 9/11, 2001, and what we experienced. I can't say this or this on this platform, but what we experienced from 2019 through the present, right? And I believe the next crisis is going to be the big kahuna. And I believe it's going to focus on the financial system worldwide. So the title of today's presentation is The Financial Cookie Crumbles. I want to take you back to 1881. Wow, really? Yeah. James Garfield was elected president. And here's what he said. He was only president, by the way, from March of 1881 to September of 1881. Why is that? Probably because of this statement. Quote, "Whoever controls the volume of money in our country is absolute master of all industry and commerce. When you realize that the entire system is very easily controlled one way or another by a few powerful men at the top," can you say banksters? Yeah. "You will not have to be told how periods of inflation and depression originate." End quote. President Garfield was assassinated very soon after he made that statement. That wasn't a coincidence. They never are. So now, the banksters, which ultimately took control of the creation of our money supply thanks to globalist cult member Woodrow Wilson, the president in 1913, handed over the keys to the kingdom, the printing press of the US dollar, handed it over to a bunch of banker cartel members, the Federal Reserve, which was created in the dead of the night, Christmas Eve, 1913. That's when it all, I mean, it was falling apart before that. Just ask James Garfield. Fell apart for him in 1881. But the banksters took control at that point. And they created a system based on debt, D-E-B-T, that could never be repaid. And they knew it from the beginning. And right now, if you take out unfunded liabilities, the United States is currently in debt, D-E-B-T, to the tune of $33 trillion. And when you add those unfunded liabilities, it's been estimated that we're well over close to $100 trillion in debt when you add it all up. So when you have that much debt, what are your options? Well, one is you could pay off the debt through growth. No, it's not possible in this case. We're too far over the cliff for that to occur. All right? Well, you can default on the debt. You can a non-payment issue. Bad luck, whoever holds the debt, we're out of here. So maybe it makes sense why countries, foreign countries that hold our debt, like Japan, China, Russia, multitude of other countries, have been dumping the U.S. debt because they can read the writing on the wall. Debt instruments like bonds, right? And when they sell and there's too many bonds being sold, what happens? Interest rates go up. Oh, you think? Yeah. The other way to pay off the debt is to depreciate the dollar by an enormous degree, print trillions of dollars to pay off the debt in essentially monopoly money, funny money, depreciated dollars. Since the Federal Reserve took control, remember, Federal Reserve, not part of the executive, legislative, or judicial branches of the United States government. It's a group of independent bankers that has federal in its name, like Federal Express does. It's marketing. Neither of them have anything to do with the federal government. And the Federal Reserve only cares about one entity, fellow banksters. They don't give a rip about you, me, or anyone we know. That's right. And they use the system to get more power and control and more financial resources through what they're doing with their printing press activities. Since the Federal Reserve came into existence in 1913, the dollar, its buying capabilities, has depreciated by close to 99%. Yeah. 99%. Why is that? Because the way they've kind of propped up the system is by printing funny money when times are a little rocky. Are a lot rocky now. Just look at the debt. And remember, we've had a number of guests on our platform. Bill Holter, Adriana Reed, Ed Steer, Rob Kirby, God rest his soul, who've told you when the system collapses, and it is inevitable that it will collapse sooner rather than later, it's going to be a debt event. So some recent statistics, in addition to the 33 trillion that we're willing to admit that we have in debt for this country, recently, we have a record 17.1 trillion with a T in household debt. A record 12 trillion with a T in mortgage debt. A record 1.6 trillion with a T in auto loans. A record 1.6 trillion with a T in student loan debt, and a record 1 trillion with a T in credit card debt. Now, there are people who are going to tell you, well, that's bad. But the good news is our banking system is secure. The banksters are secure, but they're banks that are holding all of our money, what little we have of it, afraid they're not secure. And the bankers know they can just walk away when it all comes down. WeissRe Research Group that in the banking crisis warned us in 2006, 2007 about what was coming with the banking system and the adverse consequences in the banking system. They were accurate 99.3% during that crisis, that great financial crisis. So here's what they're saying now. They're now projecting, remember, they were accurate 99.3% of the time with their projections back before the great financial crisis of what was going to happen. So this is something you should listen to. The Weiss Research Group projects that 1,210 banks risk imminent failure, and 3,043 banks risk failure if we have a financial crisis, which means those banks will likely fail if the other 1,210 banks fail. Now you're going to say, well, but the government has the backs of the depositors in the banks through the FDIC, the Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation. Yeah, so deposits up to $250,000, and who has more than $250,000 in the bank, you're protected. So I went to the FDIC website. I do this occasionally. What did I find? Well, according to their website, the FDIC is backstopping 17 trillion with a T dollars worth of deposits in the banks in the United States. Okay, so if they're backstopping it 17 trillion, that means they have to have at least 17 trillion and $1. They got to have something left over in order to backstop all these accounts. Right? 17 trillion is what they're backstopping. Well, when you go to their site and you dig deeper, it's a little hard to find, but you can find it. The FDIC only has 125 billion with a B in its deposit insurance fund. So a trillion is 1,000 billion. So in other words, the FDIC is backing $17,000 billion in deposits, $17,000 billion in deposits with 125 billion. Yeah. Can you say Ponzi scheme? Right. The cult, the globalist cult, of which the banking families run the show, and they have their little puppets running each of their own little banks, always give you a heads up that they're about to flush the toilet when we're in the shower. That's how they see it. That's their ethics. Well, we told them, and if they didn't listen or they weren't smart enough to figure it out, bad luck for them. Well, they had one of their little poster puppets, Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JP Morgan Chase, come out to give you a heads up. Americans are making a huge mistake to believe certain booming economy narratives, stated Jamie Dimon. JP Morgan Chase CEO Jamie Dimon told a financial conference recently in New York that people who assume that the U.S. economy will continue to boom for years on the back of consumer strength are making, quote, a huge mistake. I disagree with this cat on a number of things, but I don't on this one. He's giving you heads up, folks. The writing's on the wall. And now add to it this BRICS group that's now expanding to include Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Iran, United Arab Emirates. In this new BRICS group, they'll control, I think, about close to 80% of the oil supply in the world. How do you think that's going to work out? And they're talking about and implementing trades for oil rather than using dollars or petrodollars to purchase that. That's kept the demand for dollars, which has propped up the system since 1971, since globalist scum Henry Kissinger, along with Nixon, implemented that after they had pulled us off the gold standard on August 15th of 1971. Now they're creating the petro yuan and the petro ruble. The dollars aren't needed anymore. That's a huge, huge problem, folks. And now these BRICS countries are saying, we're going to use our own currency for our trades. One that's not backed by vapor like the US dollar or the euro or any of the. We're going to back it with gold or silver, oil, natural gas, natural resources. That financial cookie is crumbling in the West. And as I pointed out on the video I did, that's free at davejanda.com about Dave Janda's family's fight for freedom, I focus on what happened in 1907 and 1908 with my great-grandfather and how it extended through now 4 generations of us battling the globalists and the banksters. But what history will show you in living color is that when financial times get really crazy, hard assets are what hold value and maintain value and save people's lives. It saved my family's. When the globalist cult took my great-grandfather's business in 1907 and 1908, nothing's changed. Just ask the people in 2023 in Venezuela and Argentina about those that maintained their lifestyle, their living. They'll tell you it was gold and silver. Best financial insurance policy on the planet. Which is why you see governments of India and China and Russia and Malaysia and people around the world and governments around the world that are trying to extricate themselves from the dollar-based system, telling their populations to get some financial insurance, hard assets, gold and silver. The paper price of gold and silver at the Shanghai Exchange over the past month have been decoupling from the West at much higher prices because there's such a demand, because they know the system is coming down. Price discovery is switching east because the gold convertible petro yuan oil contract is bringing gold back to the monetary system. A trend bound to accelerate with Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates and Iran soon joining the BRICS group. Don't dismiss that gold is not a pet rock as the anemic Western investor allocation currently signals. This is from Zero Hedge. Folks, I believe the financial system, the time is short. Our financial system is in the ICU, and it's not doing well in the intensive care unit. The bought-off lamestream fake media, the fake docs, are trying to tell you, all's fine. Don't worry about that financial patient in the ICU. All's fine. And they want you continuing to listen to Fox Business News and CNBC and read the Wall Street Journal and Barron's and Reuters and Bloomberg that are filling your head full of information that's going to land you in the financial ICU. Protect yourself. It's not that hard. The banksters have criminally using paper contracts kept the price down of gold and silver in the West, where we are, so they can accumulate more. And that's what they've been doing. Jamie Dimon, I talked about him at JP Morgan Chase. If you look back at, say, 2011, they had very little gold in their vault and they had no silver. According to analysts, they have millions of ounces now in their vaults of gold. Hundreds of millions, some people believe over 1 billion ounces of silver that they've accumulated by fraudulently manipulating the price. There were just some JP Morgan Chase executives that went to jail for criminally manipulating the price of precious metals. You think they just did that on their own? No. Central banks around the world are accumulating huge amounts of precious metals. Foreign countries, Russia, China, India, are accumulating huge amounts. Why are they doing this? Because they see the financial cookie crumbling that's based on the dollar. And they're protecting themselves and their populations. You can't count on the United States government protecting. In fact, one thing you can count on, they won't protect you. So you have to do the heavy lifting. Precious metals. Best financial insurance policy on the planet. Adriana Reed from the Camino Company does a number of videos with me. Camino, C-A-M-I-N-O, company.com. If you haven't called her, if you haven't gone to their website, you need to. I found them to be the most honest, straightforward people, very transparent with their transactions, both buying and selling. But it's coming. In fact, it's here. That crunching you hear is a financial cookie crumbling. And it's best you act accordingly. I thank you for joining me today. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Join us 24/7 at davejanda.com with content I cannot discuss on any social media platform or on the radio. There is another insurance policy. Becoming a subscriber at davejanda.com. 30 cents a day, $9 a month. For priceless information you can get nowhere else, because I supply information nowhere else, and I've developed contacts over 35 years behind the curtain, second to none, who put people months, years ahead of the curve so they can protect themselves. There's no reason for you not to at least give it a run. Try it for a month, $9. Some people pay, like around the country, some people pay $9 for a big cup of coffee. One, yeah. $9 once. Do yourself a favor. Become a subscriber. You won't regret it. But you will be empowered. You will be educated. And you will be protected by doing so. Fact. Until next time, Dave Janda signing off. Dream big and dare to fail. Thanks for your time today.